So everybody take a nice big deep breath and let it all go. I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because he who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with me. I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal. Amen. All right, so as Nancy said, the concept of continuity, and for myself, I usually like to teach the classes from themes rather than starting from the beginning to the end, because I find there are many themes that are woven throughout the course that if you kind of bring them all together, they really bring a great deal of continuity. So one of the themes that we've been working on the last couple of weeks is the theme about attraction. And the course has a little bit different approach to attraction than many other New Age spirituality programs do. And its core is that if we've chosen for the ego or chosen for separation, chosen for the to be on our own away from God, that we then carry within us the concept of less than, and then we will automatically attract to us some form of that. And I like to do visuals, so I have a visual that we've been working on, and that visual is, if you think about these magnets, the yellow part is God, and literally it's pretty much everywhere, okay? But we took one little aspect of God and we covered it over, painted it black, and then we have identified completely with that part and have forgotten that God is everywhere around that, because it's like we have, I can't remember this word, the horses, when they have the blinders, I don't know why I get a blank with that, but the blinders on and all they can see is whatever is allowed in that space. And in a lot of ways, that's how we, unbeknownst to us, have lived our lives, looking between the blinders and don't realize there's this whole experience around us because we're only focused on that. And the way we remedy that, and I use, these are magnets, they stick together, and I also have some little magnets, Kathleen, if you want to pass these around, that I want you to play with, because you will see the ones that come together really come together hard, I guess you could say, or well, and you can actually get your finger stuck in there. And if you flip them around and try to put the opposites together, you will feel the energy. You literally can't get them to connect. So play with those a little bit while I'm talking. But what happens is, if I carry within me that attraction point that is, I am separated from the love of God and I'm experiencing the dark side, for lack of a better word, because that's the color I painted him, I'm always going to draw to me some form of guilt, sin, fear, irritation, upset, you name it. And even in the world of quote unquote nice, I may attract something. Well, let's just say, my car fell apart and I attracted a new car. And you would say, well, that should be the positive side. But the thing is, if we really pay attention, I'm elated about the new car for about 3 seconds until I pull out of the driveway, and I immediately take on the fear of, oh, is somebody going to crash into my car? I park really far away, so nobody will scratch my car. My insurance is going to go up. Whatever it may be, that heaviness, that negativity slips right in there quicker than we can, switch a switch, I guess you could say. And so a lot of what we have been working on and will continue to work on in this section is this concept of what is that attraction? How did it get here? And then what can I do to begin to live through the attraction of love? Because whether I choose for the ego, I'm going to have ego babies, I guess you could say. And if I choose for the Holy Spirit, I will automatically experience love, peace, and joy and connectionness. So thank you. We are going to kind of review a section that we did last week, and the section is on page 404, if anybody wants to read around. Do you want a book? I don't know. Yeah, right on the end here. And this will be in the text on page 404, and the section is called The Unreality of Sin. And this section is one where Jesus very specifically offers to us to look at sin from a different perspective, because if something is a sin, according to the world, sin can't be forgiven. You're stuck with it. You're going to carry this heaviness with you forever and ever. And Jesus in the Course is very specific with the idea of that's not what we want to look at. We want to look at this as a mistake. And a mistake is something that could be corrected once you realize that you are making a mistake. Okay? He's very adamant about this concept in the Course. So I'm just going to read a line or two in a couple paragraphs, and then we'll get to where we left off last week. So the first line in paragraph 1 is the attraction of guilt is found in sin, not error. So we will continue to attract things of guilt when we believe we've sinned. And the original sin from the perspective of the Course was we were at one with God. We believe we separated and took on our own identity, and we're running wild in I'm in charge, and God is, get rid of him. We don't need him because I'm in charge. So that would be the original belief in sin, that I did something wrong. And this was one son at the time this particular separation concept began. There was just one. And then we were afraid to go back to God, who was only love, because we think we did something horrible when we left and got rid of him so that we could be in charge. So the way we solved that problem was we projected into the world, which appears to be loads and loads of separated little beings, or sometimes people think of it as shattered glass. It's all still that one pane of glass, but it appears in many different shattered pieces. And of each one of those shattered pieces, we each carry a thought of both these parts of our minds. So each one of us has the opportunity, seemingly individually, because we believe we're individual, to return back to the constant experience of staying with that oneness.
So does that also include a blade of grass?
Yes, everything. Yeah.
Everything.
Keep remembering anything of form is part of the illusion.
I find it fascinating that Christianity is so, Course's perspective is so different.
Yes.
But yet they still have this original sin as being the original problem. And so does the
Right.
Course.
Yep. Very different interpretation.
Of original sin for the sin amongst there is so different. But it's fascinating that they got that part kind of right.
Yeah. Well, but
At least according to their perspective.
right. But the difference between Christianity and the Course is Christianity is about suffering. It's about sacrifice. It's about a lot of things that the Course is not really about.
I get it.
Right.
The fact of this original sin.
Yeah.
We have the original sin, we're calling it separation.
Yes.
And I'm not sure what they
call it, right?
The core of the original sin is. But I just used to think, well, how the heck? I was just a baby. How did I get born with original sin?
Right.
And now we get to see more of the picture here.
Yeah.
Catholics invented baptism to get rid of it.
What's that?
Catholics invented baptism to get rid of it.
Well, I know.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly, yes.
All the water on the face takes it away. That's
Right.
what they say, but they don't act like it.
Well, it's not just Catholic, it's Christianity, does
Right.
all of the Christian denominations all have baptism?
Whoever does do it.
Yeah.
Right.
The Baptists take a bath. and
Right,
they-
yeah, I would say most Christian churches have some type of a baptismal experience, yeah. And I think that's why many of us are led beyond what we were taught as kids, is because that doesn't quite connect, the dots don't connect, okay? As Russ said, we get baptized, now I'm pure. Well, is your answer, but they don't act like it, or the concept of Jesus dying for our sins. Well, if he died for our sins, then we shouldn't have any more sins. And yet we're all walking around quite miserable, unhappy, and you name the words that you want to use to describe that. And the Course is very clear on why neither of those takes away the problem, because the problem isn't going to be found in somebody giving up their life for us. We each have to individually come back to the memory of who we are as love. And that's the answer, not something that's going on in the world. And so we have to kind of focus our understanding of the interpretation of a lot of the words that are found in the Bible that are also found in the Course, but mean something totally and completely different. And I will bring up the word forgiveness, because we know in Christianity, forgiveness is somebody did me wrong. Oh, I'm going to be a good little, whatever religion I am girl, and I'm going to forgive so-and-so for what they did. And the Course is saying, true forgiveness is recognizing that none of the illusion is real. You're at home in the love of God's arms. But if you want to stay here and pretend you're in God's arms, you're never going to make it over there, because you have to relinquish the story of the illusion or the ego in order to find out what the answer is that underlies the answer that we are asking for now. So it is a major setup. Ken would often say that, Christianity will continue for a long time because people love the story of Christianity, because I can, be the innocent victim and it's somebody else's fault. And the Course comes along and says, well, wait a minute here. If you've lost your peace, it's not because of anything somebody did on the outside. Now that may trigger it, don't get me wrong, because it does. But if you had no attraction point for the separation, no matter what came to you, it would have no effect on you, because you're aligned, much like the magnets I passed around. The ones that don't fit, really, there's an energy between them. It just doesn't allow that to happen. And you could also think of if it's pouring down rain and you're wearing a raincoat, that raincoat is going to protect you and cover you, because that's what the quality of the raincoat is. It could still rain. The story of Jesus dying on the cross, from the perspective of the Course, he died on the cross. Yeah, those things happened. They were mean, they were terrible, they called them names, they did all kinds of things. But his response to that from the perspective of the Course is, I remember who I am, so it doesn't matter what happens to my body, which is a whole complete and absolute different storyline than the storyline that, I've got to be a good little person, of which I would guess most of us tried to be good people in the world for the most part. And that didn't make the ungood things show up in our lives, I guess you could say. All right, so paragraph number 2, let's see where I want to, yes, yeah. We are on 404 in the text, the unreality of sin. And we're going to hit paragraph 2, a line or two here. All right, so what must be punished must be true. So if we believe in sin, if we believe in not only am I bad, somebody out there is bad, I'm going to hold that image, and it's almost like holding this here. If I hold that image, then I'm not going to let anything else in. I'm not going to be willing to see my brother through a different lens. I'm convinced I'm right, they're wrong. And there's a line in the Course that we will continue to uphold that belief to our death, to prove that we're right and the other person's wrong. And Jesus comes along and says, well, I know what your eyes and your ears and your eye, your eyes, your ears, and all your senses say, that what's happening is true. But will you be willing for a moment to flip that around and let me show you what the answer is instead? And in some moments you might be willing and some you might not be willing because we're so adamant about being right. Plus, the other purpose of me wanting to be right is I'm really too afraid to align completely with God. So I'm going to stay here instead of here. And kind of for Nancy, from the perspective of the course, it talks about that there is one throne. When God was on it, there was oneness. And as a result of that, he gave everyone love and peace, eternity, Christ, joy, innocence, and that we're all the same. Those were our, I guess you could say, God-given attributes. When the Son of God, and the course would speak of the Son of God, decided it wanted to be in charge. It wanted to be an individual. It wanted to be special. So it broke off from this belief system and kicked God off the throne, replaced himself on the throne, and now there's a me and a something else, and it originally was God, and then that gets filled in by people in my world, the grass, my chair, whatever it may be, and as a result of this choice instead of the other, we live in a world of guilt, sin, fear, death, projection, and we're all different. So we thought we were going to get to be on the throne, bring all the attributes of God with us, and everything would be just fine. Instead, it backfired on us, and we've been living in the opposite ever since, which is obviously not working out too well. And when it comes to a point where we realize me being in control really hasn't worked out the way I thought it should work out. And maybe there's another way, and that other way, with Helen and Bill, when they asked that question, shortly after that, the course then came forth to fill in the answer to that question. But just having the book is a good start, putting the ladder up next to the right house, but we still have to learn how to climb because we're so adamant at believing the illusion and still very addicted to the illusion as well. All right, so paragraph 3, an error, on the other hand, is not attractive. So if I'm holding a sin, whether it's for myself or for my brother, and we're equally, I guess you could say, guilty of either one of those. And ultimately, if I'm judging or attacking my brother, it is because I'm really judging and attacking myself on some level. So an error, on the other hand, is not attractive. So when I drop the I know to I don't know, I'm literally saying I'd rather have an error than a sin, and I want you to show me a different answer than the one I so adamantly believe, with every ounce of who I am, that I am right to hate and attack my brother. So it's not only is it a process, we're so addicted to this, it's not easy to let this go, but the results will be then I have a traction point that's completely different than what I had before, and a new way can fill that space instead of the results of me constantly coming from the belief of sin. All right.
Marianne,
Yeah.
you say that we're always weighing what's right and what's wrong, and we are seeing the things in the world, like I said, this carpet is a wrong, whatever, that we're
Yes.
always actively looking for the attraction point for the ego.
Yes.
And that's our
That's
default.
the automatic,
That's our
yes,
default.
yes.
That's where we go all the time.
Yep.
If the doorway doesn't seem right, or does this shirt make me look fat, whatever, it's all those kind of questions.
All of them, yeah. And, we read the one section a couple of weeks ago about attraction, where it talked about when you choose for the ego, it's going to send out all these little feelers, and it's going to bring something to your feet that says there's something wrong in the world that needs to be different so that I can be okay. Doesn't matter what it is, how big or small, You know, it could be my house was bombed or it could be a broken nail. Am I not at peace? The feeler's got me, and it's coming from the attraction point of the ego, and it's gonna bring it back to me.
It's like it's being presented to me, or I'm presenting it to myself, as the case it really is. It's being presented to me all the time. that
24
there's
hours a
something
day.
different and something wrong about
Yes.
this space. And if the chair doesn't feel good, or the
Yep.
temperature in the room, then you're always being sent, and this is like our, from day one.
Absolutely.
Nothing was ever right. And maybe, I mean, I think that's pretty much a shocker in this course, because
It's very much a
because
shocker.
You think, well, so I had nice parents, I had this, I had a nice house, wherever. And I'm thinking of, like they say, the gratitude, you're always shoving gratitude down your throat, and you
Yep.
care less because you didn't like any of it. But you don't realize that until you start in this course, because you do feel like ashamed if you're upset about something. I mean, that's the way you're being taught. Is that if you did something that somebody else didn't like, that's a bad thing that you did.
And it's a major, major setup, because the goal of the ego is to perpetuate the guilt, okay? It lives off that. So if I feel bad because I did something, or if I feel bad because I didn't do something, or if I didn't do it right, it doesn't matter. I feel bad. And the ego says, yeah, we got her again. And as you said, this has been running the show before we were even brought into the world, in this world. We've been playing and replaying this story over and over and over and over again. And it's again, very automatic. And everything about my senses is telling me that what I see and hear is right. So that's, it's like we don't have a whole lot going for us here. The only answer Jesus gives us is nothing happened. Well, I got this whole world, this stuff that's hitting me on the head all the time like a tornado. And Jesus says, but nothing happened. And you go like, well, that's really nice, but thank you very much. I better go tend to whatever I have to take care of. And he says, tend to what you have to take care of, but don't forget me first.
This is where Bill comes in and says there's got to be another way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
another way that doesn't have
exactly.
a right or a wrong.
Right. And in whatever way all of us in our own special way have come to that, or we probably wouldn't be sitting in this room. And, it's like the world as it's been presented from my little box growing up is not working. Is there another way? And Jesus says, yes, there is. You're not going to like it, but there is another. It'll take you a while to get used to it. Maybe that's a better way to put it.
And that's where you're skating between the things. I had an experience on Thursday morning with a little boy that I watch. He's just 3.5, but he's pushing 4, and he's getting pretty mouthy. But his dad, and they, everything he wants. I want blueberries, or whatever. They give it to him, and they pile it on him. And then I witnessed this, and it was a shock to my system. And then how to respond kind of came through a lot more easily than I thought it would. But so he likes to go in the refrigerator. He just goes wherever he wants. And I just kind of watch him and pray doesn't knock the whole thing, whatever. But his dad, is just like they're just like so protective and so sweet with him. And he went and I don't know. We were talking, and then he was busy around something. He's always blasting us with.
Could you try to speak up a little bit? They can't
He's
hear
always
you.
blasting us with like what he wants now. And so instead he went in the refrigerator, he pulled on some bottles, and they started to come out, and his father got angry with him. He said, no, no, I never saw him do that. And then I saw him like just shrivel up, and he was like out on the other side of his dad. I was here, the refrigerators are there, and his dad was hollering at him. And I see him, and he was holding him. I said, did you hurt, let me see your, everything. I was so grateful that I didn't start yelling at his dad. I don't know, like you're walking this line of, oh my God, where is Jesus? What do I do now? And I felt really good that I just, and
And I think it's important in this process, it's not asking us to change our behavior necessarily. It's asking us to change our mind. You know, it sounds like you were able to be of the wherewithal of knowing you wanted to remain in your still mind. You know, maybe it flipped over a few times, but there was that intent, and that's really what it's asking us. You know, you may continue to do exactly what you were doing, but am I choosing in my mind, not out here, in my mind, to flip to, I don't know, help?
And it also questions, where's the danger? What's happening? What's wrong? What is the ego? Like, okay, well, what the hell, right? He's Mr. Sugar Pants with his
Right.
boy. Here he is, having it, getting really angry and yelling at him. And so how are you,
Yeah.
you're asking okay, now what are we doing? Where do I belong in all this? And that's all wherever, when that stuff hits the fan in our face, where we are
Yep.
witnessing, then we have to, our attraction point gets a little wobbly again. But then I guess it just like keeps sticking to
Right. Well, and the other thing, as well as, as we keep asking to see this more clearly, we are going to be challenged more. And if you think about let's say you're learning how to play tennis, and at first you just hold the racket and the ball hits it once in a while, and then you get pretty good with the forehand, and then you practice the backhand and you get pretty good with that, then they throw the forehand again and you forgot how to do that. And so it's like, as we keep asking, we are honing our skills of being able to respond completely from a place of love. Well, again, the ego's not Holy Spirit friendly. It's about, I'm going to win the game, you're not going to win the game. And so be very aware, and I know a lot of times people have shared, well, I had this beautiful meditation, it was so peaceful, it was so wonderful. I thought I was going to carry that through with the rest of the day, and somebody said one word and I'm all over the place. Don't be surprised if these kinds of things occur, because it's that other part of us is saying, are you sure you only want to be in peace here? And the answer is, my development of peace is not matured enough to the point where I can respond 24 hours a day from that place. So don't use those, and I know this is a lot easier said than done, don't use those wavering from where I think I'd like to be as another reason to put another nail in the crucifixion for yourself. Just realize, oh, I guess I'm not there at the point where I can respond totally loving all the time yet, but I'm in that process, and just stop. And if it comes back and tries to get you again, you just keep calming it down, because it's going to try to keep bringing you back to that place of anger or upset or guilt or I'm a sinner, or whatever the words may be, because that's what the ego's for. And this is not, it's not a nice process. And oh, I finally turned this around. I want someone to pat me on the back, give me some A's, and tell me what a good job I did. And all that happens is the next thing comes around and says, oh, let's see if we can slip you back over here where you belong. And also be very aware, the ego is not an entity outside of you coming to get you. The ego is what you ordered, and it is returning your order. And we've been sending out orders for the ego since the Big Bang. So there's a whole lot lined up that are going to continue to show up at your door. The answer is, what am I going to do with that? Am I going to remain here, or am I going to ask for help?
Yeah. So I want to remain still.
Yes.
And then I am able to take care of and find whatever needs to be taken care of.
Right, and even that comment, though, absolutely right on. When I'm extremely enmeshed in my ego, peace is almost non-existent, even when I'm attempting to find that place of peace. I think as we accumulate, as we continue on this process, we can more easily come to that place of peace, because because we've matured ourselves to the point of knowing that's really where the answer lies. But initially, even that word, even though it's absolutely correct, it just doesn't even show up in the vocabulary yet.
Just an incident that happened this morning about choice. We're talking and listening to Ken and whatever at home.
Right.
And I lost my phone.
Mm.
I mean, I was
Right.
sitting right there, and it's like under a cushion or it's someplace.
Right.
And I said, oops, I lost my phone. And what I hear is, you chose the wrong teacher. And I looked and I looked inside. I said, no, I did not choose the wrong teacher. I lost my phone. And I'm happy as a little kid playing hide and seek with the phone. Okay, and it took me a while just to realize, no, this is not the ego playing. I am fine with losing the phone because I know I can't lose the phone. Loss was not there.
But the ego would adamantly convince you that that's not where the problem lies.
Right.
Yeah. And again, that's its job, I guess you could say. Yeah. Yes.
It's just this, I'm having a thought, and I know you answer questions really well. So my question is, you know, when you were saying this is what we ordered, the ego, we order the ego, and with the ego we get all kinds of crap. And so, I mean, I don't know, this popped in my head, this idea of metaphysics, the idea of the secret, the idea of manifestation, the idea of like, I know that's not the goal of what we're getting to, the goal is peace, but it seems like you can kind of play with that too.
Well, and you can, and if you feel inclined to do so, I would say go forth and do it. But eventually, as we climb to the top of the mountain, the only real prayer is, show me who I am, period.
Stuff falls off.
The stuff falls off. And at the same time, if you think you need the stuff, go for the stuff, because eventually it'll fall off, and then it won't have a attraction to you any longer.
Show me who I am.
Isn't very satisfying right now. I know.
Yes.
I know.
You get to see all the stuff that you're.
I absolutely hear you. And I agree.
Hey, Marianne,
Yes.
we can't hear you.
Really, I've got it turned up all the way. So I don't know why. Can you hear me and not them, or you can't hear it all?
I can hear you, but it's very low.
Because I've got I've got it turned up as high as it will go.
Maybe if you reconnect.
Reconnect.
Yeah, just drop off Zoom and then come back, put it back on.
Then it has to start all over and everything. So yeah, I'm not going to do that. And sometimes it doesn't start all over. So I'll try to speak louder. How's that? Thank you for letting me know, though.
It's still really low.
Yeah. You can do closed captions at the bottom. Oh, that's right. You can do closed caption on the bottom, and the words will show up on your screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That'll help. At least you can read it. Yep. Thank you for reminding me. I always forget that. Yeah. Yeah. So again, this is a process, and much like going to school. When you go to school, you don't know anything, or you think you do, but you go to school and they start to teach you new things, and it's always a challenge when you're being taught something new. And you fight and you kick, and then you get better at it, and then pretty soon you got that pretty well taken care of. And then the next time they give you something harder again. But that's good news. That's challenging you to take you to the top of the mountain. Yeah. And again, the bottom line is, Kathleen, so often we talk about the idea that we, Ken would often say, we don't really want just what the Course has to say. I want everything in the world to be my way so that I can have a better life as me. But no matter what we get in the world that goes up is always going to go down, because this is a roller coaster ride. This is not the smooth ride. This is the roller coaster ride. So if I get an elation today, I'm going to have a crash somewhere tomorrow. And it's just part of the roller coaster ride of duality. In oneness, it's just a smooth line. And we can't be, we can't be embraced in the flatliner when I'm not ready to be embraced in the flatliner. It just doesn't work that way. So we keep playing this until this starts to become very tiring because I like the highs, but I don't like the lows. And eventually I start to work towards a little bit smoother ride. And then you look back at all the crazies doing this and you go, oh my gosh, what are they doing over there? But it's a process.
Just an illusion though that,
Yep.
so the illusion is this flat line or this roller coaster.
Same thing.
When you ask Jesus for help, when you ask the Holy Spirit for help, you're in another space.
Absolutely.
You're in a decision maker part. You decided you don't know what to do. So I guess that's where it's not so much a flat line as it's you're waiting for the answer to the question. And I remember years ago being very scared of something and asking for help.
Right.
I didn't realize I was asking for help. But then, the Holy Spirit's going to use something in the world, or maybe not, to help to demonstrate. Because that's all there is. We're always bouncing off of what's ever in the world. And when he bounces the ball at us, we wait, ask for ego bounces the ball at us, we wait, ask for the Holy Spirit, and then we don't have to bounce it back right away. We do whatever the Holy Spirit tells us. So it's not so much a flatliner as it's just like there's no belief or trust in how
Yeah.
the system works. When it doesn't work, when you say I want this and I want that, and that's all there is to it. It just works when you ask for help,
Right.
and it works. It doesn't kill you, it doesn't flatline you. It opens a space.
But what I'm saying, that flatliner to someone who's addicted to the ego seems like something very uncomfortable.
Right.
Yeah. When you're at a place to embrace that, it's wonderful. But if you're trying to, it's like telling a little kid they have to sit down and read and they want to go play in this sandbox. It just is. Yeah.
Right.
All right, so we're going to move down to paragraph number 4, line number 5. And this is rather important. So mistakes are for correction. They call for nothing else. What calls for punishment must call for nothing. And I will read these line by line in a moment. Every mistake must be a call for love. What then is sin? What could it be but a mistake you would keep hidden, a call for help that you would keep unheard and thus unanswered? That's a pretty powerful statement there. All right, so mistakes are for correction and they call for nothing else. Now the Course talks about the idea of no matter how brutally something attacks from the outside, they're literally calling for love. And we all know the meanest, cruelest person acts the most obnoxious, and the last thing in the world you want to even think about is connecting with love with that individual. But what this is saying is that mistakes are for correction and they call for nothing else. And again, we have to be very aware when I'm coming from the attraction of the separation, I don't want love. Love is the other team. Okay, see this nice line down the middle here? When I'm attracted to the ego, or I have the attraction point for the ego, I don't want love. Love is my enemy, and it's very much the same as a football game. The two teams, while they're playing, mortal enemies. They might go have a cup of coffee or a beer after the game and talk about all the great plays they did. But while they're playing, they are mortal enemies. While we're playing the ego game, God is a mortal enemy because he will destroy my essence of the separated self, which isn't really who I am, but is who I believe I am. Well, it's important to capture that concept. All right, so we want to think, so let's say I have this, we all have this attraction point. I won't say that let's say because this is where we're coming from when we chose to separate. And Ken would often say, we chose for the separation and then we forgot this belonged here, or that this was even here, so we've been running on that separation ever since. So I believe, and there's that wonderful workbook lesson that says, I am the home of evil, sin, and darkness, and if anybody knew who I really was, they would recoil as though I were a snake. Now, Jesus tells us these words not because he's a mean guy and he wants us to feel bad. He tells us these words because he's trying to help us get in touch with the realization this is what you're carrying underlying here, that you put a little makeup on, you comb your hair and wear a nice outfit to hide. And you don't even know that's what's in there. But anytime somebody looks at you the wrong way, says something that hurts your feelings, or any insignificant little thing that triggers your insecurity, is really trying to help you become aware of, I'm carrying this. Because if they said that to me and I was attracted to love, I would not be affected by that at all. Zero, nil, nothing. It would simply be, okay, they had a bad day today, I guess. And I often will say, if somebody came up to me and said I had purple hair and I was 6 feet tall, I would not be affected by that. I might think they were a little weird, but now if they said, wow, it looks like you put on 5 pounds, and I weighed myself this morning and it was, 4 pounds. Whoa, boy, I'm gonna be, reeling. All right, so if I'm carrying that with me all the time, and somebody else comes along and triggers me, I'm not going to say I love you to that person. I'm not even going to think about the idea that I'd like to think of them as love and not anything else. It would require me to open up a space that says, I want to see something different, okay? Then I could be in a position to offer them love. As long as I'm carrying this, I cannot see my brother in love. I'm not likely to even be able to connect with wanting to see my brother in love. And there's a lot of brothers out there that, don't deserve love. Don't you all agree? And this course is saying, sorry kids, you see, if you're one, it's one or the other. You're either hate or fear and they're hate or fear, or you're love and so are they. You're not going to get away from that one. It's one or the other.
Well, hopefully you won't have to meet all those brothers before you get it.
You'll get your fair square.
You met a few and you don't have to meet anymore. They can.
Well, yeah, but literally the course would say everyone you meet is a representation of that. And a lot of good Christian people, no offense to Christians, go to church every Sunday and they think they're loving. And, I love God, but my brother, oh, no, he just ran over my toe. I don't love my brother. And this is saying you either love all the same. You either love them, or you hate them. There isn't any in-betweens here. So if you walk around saying, I love God, but I hate my brother, you're over here, you're not over here. All right, so mistakes are for correction and they call for nothing else. So if I'm carrying this attraction of I am the home of evil, sin, and darkness, which the Course is telling us that we do, I need to be willing to ask to see myself differently. So then I could automatically see my brother differently. But as long as I'm holding this, I'm going to automatically see my brother from this point of view. And I'm going to be what's the word I'm looking for? Of course I'm going to attack them because they are justified to be attacked, okay? All right, so what calls for punishment must call for nothing. Okay, there's a line for you. And why he's saying that is because punishment doesn't exist when you're aligned with love. There is no punishment here. So if you are living in the experience of punishment, it is nothing. But you believe it's everything. So as long as you believe it's everything, to you it is. But in essence, he's saying if love is all there is, none of this is real. And that's one of the reasons why he keeps asking us to look, pay attention to your every moment experience. And like Andrea said earlier, every moment experience is judge, judge, attack, 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 judge. And before, I didn't even realize that I was this machine that was just, you know, chopping up and shooting and killing. So this is saying, look at yourself being a good ego who attacks and judges. But don't judge or attack yourself. Just simply watch, what does the result of choosing for the ego look like? It looks like this. What are the attributes over here? Hate, void, emptiness, illusion, dread, death, special love, guilt, chaos, fear, lack, pain, suffering. That's what you're going to get when you choose for this. So observe that that's what I'm getting. Don't be so surprised. Just realize, oh my gosh, this is what I've chosen instead of love. And one day, someone's going to come and try to attack you. And in the midst of them walking across the room, something within you is going to say, I don't want to play that game anymore. I want to know what love is. And that may take a while before that moment shows up. But if you keep working on this, and you keep coming to the class and you keep hearing these words over and over and over that I know most of them don't make sense to you yet. And one day it's just going to come together, and all of a sudden you're going to see this through a very different lens. And that's part of the healing.
You get a timeout.
Yes.
You get a timeout. I used to have, that's what you did with children. You just
Sure.
give them a timeout. You don't banish them in the closet. You don't, whip them with a stick. You just give a timeout. So
Yep.
I feel like I got a timeout, and that was good, because it was like,
Yep.
oh, I don't have to keep having a fit or whatever.
Yep.
I don't have to. There's no time now. I can choose to have no time. I can, what, that thing with the, with the this time ticking
Oh,
away.
this one.
The time stops. Like that's,
Right.
I
This
can
one.
stop,
The holy
collapse it,
instant. Yep. You're up here.
collapse the time myself.
Time is collapsing.
Yeah.
So while you're here, time continues. And when you come back, you will have collapsed that much time that you don't have to physically live every one of those moments. So being in the holy instant or above time and space is a wonderful place to spend time if you want to get this done especially. And again, this happens very quickly, because literally it's described as a holy instant is a moment out of time and space where you don't exist. But right now, that's too frightening, so I pop back in rather quickly, but that still caused great healing in that moment that I was gone. But if I come here and then I judge myself, I'm back down here again. This is I don't know. The more I don't know, the more the healing part can come together there. All right, so every mistake must be a call for love, and that applies to your brother, and that applies to you. You know, how many times do we brutalize ourselves for hours and hours and hours on one moment's duration of experience? Not just hours, it can be months, years, lifetimes. And even with our brothers, how many of us are holding some resentment, irritation, or attack of something somebody did, and they're not alive yet? And it's in my pocket. I got it out here. Yeah, I better bring this one out. And what that really represents is I'm too afraid of the space of love, so I need some irritation to hold on to so I know I'm still alive. And that's really sick, guys. I mean, it really is sick. It's just the facts of how it works out, but it is sick. And we will start to accumulate that awareness that, oh, wow, there it goes again. I don't need to carry this around with me. I can let this one go. And this is kind of a visual that's kind of cool. I don't know if you remember the old slide trays that were circular.
Yeah.
And you put the slides in, and then you'd look at the slide. So if I look at the slide that's on the screen and I'm not affected by it any longer, we can throw that one away. So that one won't come around again. Now, if I didn't succeed, we put the slide back in, and it'll come around until eventually all the slides in the tray have been removed, and that blank screen will be the answer. but don't feel guilty if you respond. And see, that's the other tricky one. Just recognize, oop, not there yet, I guess, maybe next time.
Well, what happened with the little boy was one thing, but then how his father reacted to him, that was another piece of it. And I didn't quite get that until a few hours later. So I just, I was able to be present in that moment. And then, of course, he went downstairs, but I kept thinking about oh, look at how he pours all this stuff in his lap all the time, and then how mad he gets at him when something goes awry. But that's not, again, that's another edge. That's how the ego works you, one side and the other.
And what I do personally is if I find myself judging or attacking out there, sometimes I will bring it back to, let's see, back to the drawing board. Is there a way that I continue to do that I'm not aware of? Because what I'm really seeing is me being reflected into the world. So if we can kind of bring it back, and it's not like I got to find the specific here. It's just more of a gentle shifting to, oh, wow, if I see that in my brother, it's got to be in me, because I wouldn't see it in my brother and be affected by it unless there was some attraction point in me.
It's like it's not the form that's taking place out here I want to look at. That's the trigger for me. And I want to go inside and say, how am I reacting to this? What am I making of this? And something shows up. And that's what I get to deal with.
Lots of levels of unwinding.
Yeah.
And yet every moment of the day is an opportunity if we use it for that purpose.
So are those slides in the projector, are they like memories or incidents from
Absolutely,
your past?
yes.
And,
Yeah.
okay.
And you could think, we know if you're in a theater, there's a light being projected on the screen because there's nothing in front of the screen. Once anything is put in front of it, and you could call that form of any kind, and oftentimes we think of it as the negative slides, but it can be a positive one that can keep me here as well. So it's anything that represents that the slide is real and the light is not, because it's always one or the other.
I went through this whole forgiveness process this morning with a former boss of mine. And I didn't even consider that she was, enemy number 1 or 5 or whatever.
That's number them, right?
In years.
Right.
But while we worked together, it was a very adversarial. I would go home and paint ugly pictures of her. It was that bad. Wow. Okay. And what I did this morning was I relived an incident where in the springtime before school was out, we'd go and have a picnic with all the teachers and the principal and the kids down at Edgewater. And so we were there, and what happened in real life was there's music going on, and I walk along, and I cannot not walk to the music if I hear music. I just kind of, and so the principal goes, Miss Helene, and not at that time in real life, but this morning, I said, don't let the mask fool you. We merged at that point. The music had something to do with it. That's what we connected with. That's what the Holy Spirit showed me. This is your glue, girl. This is, this is where this all comes together. And that was a big chunk because that kept coming and coming and coming.
Yeah. Beautiful. And this whole idea of, okay, so that was one incident a long time ago.
Not that long ago.
Well, okay, but before I knew you, whatever. That is hard and solid, impenetrable. And so you had the opportunity to revisit that experience from another place, and that other place was, I don't want to hold it that. I don't want to hold that there. But
Yeah.
if I insist on holding it there, which we do with so many things in our lives, there's no room for that other place to appear.
And it was interesting because this woman is somebody I liked as a person.
Okay.
Like she'd sit in the lunchroom and we would joke and stuff like that, but boy, behind the desk, you
Okay.
people, and it's like, you do not point
Interesting.
your finger in my face.
Interesting, yeah.
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
Yeah. Well, and
We
that,
had many a tussle.
right. And that's a good example of I love you, but I hate you as well.
Yeah.
You know, which goes along a lot with what we're like.
Yes, with life.
Yeah,
very.
yep. All right, well, I think we will take a break for about 10 minutes, and we'll continue to dig a little deeper in this paragraph, because I think it's quite significant. All right. All right, so again, coming back to the difference between a sin and a correction. A sin is solid, cannot be penetrated. A mistake is something we can consider another possibility. And again, whether this applies to yourself or this applies to somebody in relationship to you, am I holding myself as such a bad person? And literally, whether we put the words around it or not, I'm a sinner that can never be forgiven when I'm holding something against myself. And then obviously if I hold something against my brother as well, same kind of an energy that takes place. And to think of this being malleable, you know, like you got clay, we can make this something different than what it is instead of this solid, you know, citadel. I think that's a word that's used in the course, which I always got a kick out of personally. All right. So what calls for punishment must call for nothing, because literally, if we're thinking of something as punishment, which I'm going to punish the other person if God doesn't take care of it, and quite literally, we punish ourselves if God's not taking care of it either, because when we've chosen for the ego, we demand punishment on some level, and we're literally looking for that punishment to show up. And this is about recognizing, wait a minute, I don't want to go in that direction anymore. Why do I want to hold myself in that solid place that is not bringing me something different? What then is sin? What could it be but a mistake you would keep hidden? All right, I'm going to stop there. So a mistake is a sin you would keep hidden and would not question if there's another possibility than the one that I'm seeing or experiencing. That's big, guys. That's very big. A call for help you would keep unheard and thus unanswered. So in other words, you're not going to let your brother off the hook, nor in many cases am I going to let me off the hook. Versus, okay, you know, I talked earlier about the idea of weight or whatever. You know, if somebody told me I gained, you know, I look like I was putting on weight. How many of us hold the image, you know, whether it's I'm too fat or I'm too thin or I'm too ugly or, you know, whatever, some missatisfaction of who I represent as a body that we carry around, and we want, you know, someone gives us a compliment, it's usually, oh, this old thing or whatever. We don't even take in love if it's being presented to us. And to become aware, oh, there I go again. I'm holding on to that solid state of what I believe. Can I open that up a little bit and let him come in and show me something else? Because he doesn't see us in that way at all. He simply sees us completely only from that place of love. I'm going to read that last line again. So what then is sin? What could it be but a mistake you would keep hidden, a call for help that you would keep unheard and thus unanswered? And I think it's very important that you might not make that shift at the moment of the occurrence, but maybe you lay down in bed at night and then you start to, you know, rehash the day. In that moment when you're not as wrapped in the whatever that was going on, you could stop there and you know, wait a minute, I'd like to see this through a different lens. So there's no time We just think there is because of the linear experience that we're having. But we can bring anything to healing at any time from the past or a fear of the future. So if it comes up, what am I holding? What am I holding? What am I holding? And do I want to continue to hold it? You know, Ken would often say, the number one purpose of this course is to help you realize there is another choice. It doesn't say you have to choose the other choice yet, but it is letting you know that choice is available when you're willing to let go of the heaviness of the ego and ask to see it differently. And that's a, you know, quite a gift. But I have to become aware of all the places I'm holding tight. And there's a lot of them. You know, we can't be blaming that one on God. But I'm holding it. He says, kids, nothing happened. Come on over here. Really, nothing. We go, oh no, I'm so bad. I did this horrible thing, or I should have done this, and I don't know why. Or they're bad. And there's a lot of them out there. We know. All right, paragraph 6. When you are tempted to believe that sin is real, remember this. If sin is real, both God and you are not.
Where are you at?
That's paragraph 6, line 1. So when I'm aligned with the ego, I'm literally saying who I am as God doesn't exist, and neither does God. Because when we chose for this side disappeared. So it's one or the other at any given moment. And much like if I flip a coin on the floor and head shows, we all know intellectually tails is underneath, but the only access we have is for head. So if I'm aligned with the ego, I'm literally saying God doesn't exist, and who I am as God's son in love doesn't exist either. And we're really literally taking God's place on the throne and saying, God, get out of here. I got this covered. And the results of that will always be guilt, sin, and fear, separation, pain, you know, and all the attributes that the ego provides.
That's where we get a break, is when we can't manage the throne anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We can't do it. We can't help everybody. We can't do things for both sides of the thing. You can't be on both teams at the same time.
Yep.
When you hit that, then that knocks you right off the throne.
Yeah, yep. All right, so we're going to go to line number 3 in the same paragraph 6. If sin is real, God must be at war with himself. Excuse me, he must be split and torn between good and evil, partly sane and partially insane. For he must have created what wills to destroy him and has the power to do so. Is it not easier to believe that you have been mistaken than to believe this? And basically, you know, there's many spiritualities out there that said God created the world, God created you, blah, blah, blah. The Course is very specific and adamant. God did not God created us, but we made ourselves when we chose for separation. What he created was the extension of love, of which we all are. When we took on the identity of the separated self, we took on the identity of the separated character because we projected all our guilt, sin, and fear into somebody else so that we could play the part of an innocent victim and blame them for our lack of peace, when in essence the problem lies in the choice for separation. And until we get back to the choice, we're going to play in the arena of the projected Son of God and never get anywhere. So I think this paragraph is very helpful in recognizing that when you're thinking that God made the world, in fact, the Course goes so far as to say the world was made as an attack on God. So it's a very different storyline here. So if it were true that God made the world, as this is saying, then God could be sane and insane. He could be right and he could be wrong. He could be good, he could be bad. And the Course is trying to help us understand God is love. Period. Anything we add to that, the Course would call the God of sickness, which is a God that we projected our guilt, sin, and fear on, and made him in likeness of the belief in separation.
So why was the world an attack on God?
because it has no attributes that are God's. And when we took over that belief system, we're attacking the existence of what God is and who we really are.
And does that involve everything on Earth?
That belongs to everything on earth, anything of
Including
form.
humans?
Oh, especially humans.
Okay.
Yeah, because think of oneness and eternity as formless. Anything from form on is then going to be in opposition to what is formless or what is eternal. And the line, as they say, the buck stops here, well, the line stops here. Nothing here can cross over here and vice versa.
But I guess would we be using the form to get to the formless? Like, we can't get to the formless.
Okay,
without
good
using the
question,
form.
yeah. Good question, and I like to think of it as, Jesus knows we're obviously playing in the form, and so he's gonna take us where we are. He's gonna sit down on the ground, play blocks with us, and do, many of the words in the chorus, he's like gently gliding us along, but he knows that they're not real. We have yet to understood that they're not real yet. But yes, he would take us exactly where we are. And there's a line that says, he will use anything that you have made to assist you, not because it's true, but because you believe it is right now. Yeah. All right, so it's really, that paragraph 6 is really important in the complete understanding of the course. And there's lots of people that want to take a little bit of the course and mix it up with a little bit of this and that, which initially we might do because it's hard to get rid of everything we've ever known or learned in our lives. But eventually you become very black and white. What's real is real and what's not real is not real. And if I'm being affected by what's not real, it's helpful to know that that's unreal so that I can put that back on the cupboard and stop playing with it when I'm ready. But that may take a long time before we're ready to do that.
Because you really are gonna play with all of that until you realize it's not real, until you
Absolutely.
come to grips with
Yep.
that's not working.
Yep.
Otherwise, it all looks like,
Yep. And much like
everything's fair
right.
game.
Yeah, much like Kathleen's question, well, but who wants just peace? Well, there you go. No, none of us. Quite literally, none of us. We want to continue to play, and that's okay. And Jesus says, play all you want. I'll be here when you're ready, without judgment while you're playing.
Yeah, I was gonna say me too. I mean, maybe,
agree with that, Mary.
but I don't know if, we just can't do it.
Well,
Try.
okay,
Then-
all right. But if you respond in any way at any time, in any way other than in peace, you don't really want peace. Okay, and I don't like that any more than you do. But what it would say is, if you were truly only in the bubble of peace, the only way you could ever respond is only in peace. And if it's coming from somewhere else, you want that via that you're too afraid of just peace right now.
Or do we want something to give us peace?
Well, of
We
course.
want peace to come from, the ice cream cone or,
Yep.
the piece of candy. That's where we pigeonhole peace, where because we think, I've done all this. I guess that's the experience I've
Yep.
had with my family. I've done all this. Somebody took my peace, and who
Yep.
did it? And I'm really angry.
That's a perfect example. I may want peace, but if a family member, specifically my mother,
If it ain't your mother.
then all of a sudden I'm involved in a situation I don't want to be involved in, but I am the POA, blah, 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 blah. So it's like, okay, I want peace, but I just don't know how to do that.
And that's
Yes,
the way you get it.
exactly.
You don't
But-
know how. You can't do it.
Right, but the beauty of this course is what it's trying to help us become aware of is right now, I don't know how to do peace with this one. But to know unequivocally that if I'm not at peace, it's because I don't want it yet. So that if I recognize that I'm not operating out of that, I know it's because of this. It's not because of mother or anything else that's going on in the process of that experience. It's because this is engaged instead of this being engaged. And at any moment, I could flip to this when I'm ready.
So we need to let go of, and just admit, let go of the denial.
Absolutely.
Admit
Absolutely. Yeah.
Really don't want.
And that's a challenging step for many people, especially initially. But I think as we move along in the course, then you go, well, that must represent that because I'd be choosing it, no brainer. And I'm not. So there we have it.
And doesn't the question then become, how do I get to peace? Show me how I get to peace.
I
don't
am
know.
the
I don't
peace
like
of
it.
God.
I think it
Well-
stinks in this instant, and I don't know how to, please, somebody show me, Jesus, show me how to get there. And then,
It's like a recipe.
well, no, I mean, it's what he knows how to do. It's no recipe that I can follow. It's whatever, I don't know.
But the court tells us that I am the peace of God.
Mhm.
But I've surrounded that with denial.
Right.
To get to the
Okay.
barriers.
So I want to drop my thinking
Right.
Right.
and come with, I don't know.
Yeah,
The old cliche about peel away all the layers.
correct. Yes.
And
Yeah.
get to the core.
And I think that's so true. And it's,
Yeah, that.
I don't know how many layers and not only how many layers, but I don't know how invested I am in all of the layers.
That's right, yeah.
And this is, I'm either playing in the ego in some way or another, making somebody wrong, or, they're my fault for being lack of peace, or I drop the whole picture and I say, help, I don't know how to do this. And then that releases me to another,
It's never about the other guy.
never about the other guy, no matter how much it appears that way.
As much as I hate to say that.
No, nope. All right, so one line in paragraph 7, which is the last line, sin is perceived as mightier than God, before which God himself must bow and offer his creation to its conqueror. And this is basically saying, when you believe in sin, sin is more powerful than God. And God has to bow down to sin. Well, God doesn't bow down to sin because he doesn't know about sin. But in our estimation of this, he does. And he says, is this humility or madness? And of course, the answer is madness. Because
What paragraph?
that was paragraph 7, the last 2 lines.
Oh.
All right, so paragraph 8, the first line. If sin is real, it must forever be beyond the hope of healing. And again, that solidness of what sin represents that can never be fixed or changed or healed. And this is saying, as long as you hold it dear, you are right. As long as you open up your fingers a little and let something new come in, that's when the shift can happen. And in this process of observing yourself, be very consciously aware of, I want to hold on to this. I'm not willing to open my hands, and sometimes you will be, but there's many times you, and again, it's not fair. We have eyes and ears and feelings and emotions that all live over here and support my opinion of the situation. And this doesn't. This just says nothing happened. Well, that's not very comforting when you're in the midst of insanity. All right, we're going to move to paragraph 9. And yet you look with heaven's smile upon your lip and heaven's blessing on your sight. You will not see sin long, for in the new perception, the mind corrects it when it seems to be seen and becomes invisible. Errors are quickly recognized and quickly given to correction to be healed, not hidden. You will be healed of sin and all its ravages the instant that you give it no power over your brother. And you will help him overcome mistakes by joyously releasing him from the belief in sin. Well, I don't know about the rest of you kids, but there's still moments in my life I don't want to release no brother who's a sinner, because he done something wrong, man. And every ounce of me knows I'm right and he's wrong. And that's what we're up against. All right. So, and yet you look with heaven's smile upon your lips and heaven's blessings on your sight. When you make that shift, that's what you're doing. Instead of offering the you're offering the smile, you're offering the forgiveness to your brother. And it's, it's hard to wrap our head around this, but it's so helpful. All of us are calling for love because all of us believe we are the home of evil, sin, and darkness. And all of us believe that we're going to be punished. So when somebody attacks us, they want us to attack them back. It's part of our contract. And if one of you changes that, you offer your brother the possibility that he's not this and that he could be this. You offer such an amazing gift to your brother because everybody else is right there getting them. Okay? So when we can really do this, yes, Helene, that's exactly right there. Wow, talk about power. That's a power beyond power. And it really requires simply me dropping my story and saying, I don't know.
Relieve me of the bondage of self.
Yes. And it's hard to get us to do that initially, but once you start to be able to do that more and more frequently, you literally will feel a release in yourself, and you are offering such an amazing gift to your brother. You have no idea. And, I think we always go back to like the Hitler. Well, the Hitler, did stuff, no question about it. There's nobody that would not agree with that. But what he expects from the world is more hate. And does he need more hate? He has plenty of hate. And we keep thinking, if I hate something bad enough, they're going to turn into love. It is not going to happen. It can't happen. And, there's a line in the teacher's manual that says how many sons of God are needed to heal the world, and it says one. The only one is this one. Because I have the card that says I can flip this around and do it differently. And it doesn't matter if the world gets uglier. Let's take Jesus. He was totally aligned with this. They didn't stop doing all those terrible, horrible, awful, unbelievable, gut-wrenching things to him. But it didn't matter because he knew unequivocally who he was. And we have to come to the point where my body is secondary, my mind is firstendary. Just made up a word. All right, so again, when you do this, you offer a smile on your lips and heaven's blessing on your sight, because you're saying, I no longer want to hold firm to the solidness of what I have accepted as reality, and I am willing to let you show me another way. Then my brother and I are over here. If I think I'm going to hate my brother and I'm going to be over here, never going to happen, because this is an all or nothing thing.
It's interesting how much we love to find the evildoers and point blame. And,
Absolutely.
there's so much energy in that.
Absolutely, Beata.
Find somebody that
Absolutely.
did something awful.
Yeah. And a lot of that is the diversion from me that I'm just as ugly and horrible and terrible. If God's pointing, if I'm pointing a finger and showing God who he should be looking at, then I'm off the hook for a few minutes. That's,
Well,
yeah.
that judgment catches up with you then, because you're judging somebody who's been horrible, and it brings up judgment, and then you're sitting in it.
Yep. Isn't that delightful?
The air is filled with that everywhere in the
Yep.
world.
Yes. All right, so you will see sin, you will not see sin long. So in other words, you're going to still see the shadows of it because that's what you sent out, but it's not going to be as penetrating in you because you've started that shift. For in the new perception, the mind corrects it when it seems to be seen and becomes invisible. So as we keep practicing this, we're not going to be, 4 months into an issue and then go, that's right, I could have had a V8, I could have asked for the Holy Spirit. You'll slowly get to the point where the moment anything even slightly icky starts showing up in your life, you'll stop and go, oh, I must be aligned with this. It doesn't have anything to do with this. Okay, Holy Spirit, show me. but that's going to take some practice for us to get to the point where we can align with that quickly. Let's see, for the new person, I read that. Errors are quickly recognized and quickly given to correction to be healed, not hidden. And what he emphasized this earlier in one of the other paragraphs. What we do is we want to hide my error, make me look like I'm the good guy and somebody else is the bad guy, and then I, perpetuate that everywhere I turn. And this is saying, you don't know anything. Nothing. So it's so refreshing when you can really get into that, because you really don't know anything, but also be very aware. We come on Saturday, hear these words, and we go, oh, that's really cool. And then the moment somebody says something to us outside the room, we're right there, I know, and I'm going to kill them, and be aware that that's still such a strong addiction that we carry. And so be nice to yourself. Just, oh, well, I guess I didn't quite live up to what I think I know right now. And we all know, we think we know things, and until something happens, we don't really know how we're going to respond. And how we respond is telling of where we really are in consciousness. All right. You will be healed of sin and all its ravages the instant you give it no power over your brother. Well, anybody here ready to do that 24 hours a day? Yeah. And you will help him overcome mistakes by joyously releasing him from the belief in sin. But we have to walk gently here. We have to be kind. We have to be gentle with ourselves in this process, because we have literally been going the wrong way since the Big Bang. And we're just now getting, we're reading the directions in the boat and how you turn the motor and what you do to turn it around. But we haven't turned it around yet. But we are doing everything we need to do to get that turned around, to get it going on the straight, going the other direction. And this is literally the hardest part right here, because all the momentum is going this way because of what we've accepted. And now we're starting to turn. Well, we all know the power of water. If you're trying to turn something in the water, it's rough. Plus the old programming is still pretty strong. But if we keep at it and keep at it and keep at it, eventually we'll be able to slowly turn it around and make it solid in our new awareness of being a mistake and not a sin. And just even in your daily life practices, pay attention. Am I holding someone in sin, or am I willing to open that door just slightly to see something else besides sin? And practice this on the TV, watching the news. There's plenty of places. There's plenty of places at home. You don't have to go anywhere. But if you, run out of those, yeah, right. Yeah, because literally every moment is an opportunity to make that shift. But we have, I think it's so helpful in these sections about the solidness of sin makes it impossible to heal. It is only when I open to another possibility. And this whole idea of workbook number 5, I'm never upset for the reason I think. And Jesus over and over says, there's a wonderful line, it's not that you shouldn't judge, it's impossible for you to judge, because for you to judge, you would have to know everything about everything in the past and the future and, anything. Then you could judge. You don't have that information. And yet we walk around 24 hours a day thinking we know, we got the whip of the world. I know how to do this and I know what's right. And I'm very aware that as you get sucked back into your world, you'll go back on automatic, but every single time you catch it, even a little bite of it, healing is beginning to occur. So be rather gentle with the turnaround is what I'm trying to say. All right, let's see. And you will help, I already read that, so again, I'll read it again. And you will help him overcome mistakes by joyously releasing him from the belief in sin. Because not only do we hold ourselves in sin, because of that belief system, we hold everything we look at from that point of view of the sin. And it's much like, if I look without glasses and I put my glasses on, literally everything I look at, including me, is tinted by that belief system. So the answer isn't fix them, tell them what to do. The answer is take the glasses off. And taking the glasses off is saying, I don't know, show me another way, Holy Spirit. All right, paragraph number 10. In the holy instant, and the holy instant would be that moment where you stop and say, I don't know, help. In the holy instant, you will see the smile of heaven shining on both you and your brother. And you will shine upon him in glad acknowledgement of the grace that has been given you. For sin will not prevail against a union heaven has smiled upon. Your perception was healed in the holy instant. Where's the next line? Heaven gave you. Forget what you have seen and raise your eyes in faith to what you now can see. The barriers to heaven will disappear before your holy sight, for you who were sightless have been given vision, and you can see. Look not for what has been removed, but for the glory that has been restored for you to see. All right, again, in the holy instant, you will see the smile of heaven shining on both of you, on both you and your brother. Because when I drop the story and I choose for this, my brother and I are the same. One can't fight with the other in oneness.
Yeah, it's like the shadow falls away and the light comes in, and it lights
Yeah,
everything.
exactly. Or you take the film out and all there is light on the screen. Yes. And, this is a win-win situation for everyone instead of a constant lose-lose, hate, love, hate, and all that kind of stuff we always live in. And you will shine upon him in glad acknowledgement of the grace that has been given you. And the Course specifically states the concept that when we begin to use what the ego set up for another reason, in other words, when you recognize my peace has been disrupted, I thought it was my brother, but it was really because I chose for my brother literally becomes my salvation if I use it for this purpose instead of judging and attacking him, because he's letting me know what's going on in my mind. And if I can have anything in my world my peace can be disrupted, it's not about the situation going on. It's that I'm aligned with this. So my brother literally becomes my salvation because and the brother could be a grape on the floor. Understand, it's not necessarily a person. Anything that can disrupt your peace is an opportunity to recognize, I lost my peace. The Course is telling me I did not lose my peace because of my brother or the grape. I lost my peace because I didn't have peace. I couldn't have lost my peace if I was over here. Because if I was over here, I would only be operating from peace. All right. The beautiful the aspect of, when you allow this for yourself, you are also allowing it for your brother and vice versa. For sin will not prevail against a union heaven has smiled upon. So, if we call this heaven, sin stays over here in order for me to access heaven. I can't take sin over here and say, okay, God, you better set them straight because, they got problems here. And, you know how to fix this. I don't. He says, oh, no. You know how to fix it. Leave it here. Because nothing of the illusion is reality. Why would you want to bring it over here? All right. Your perception was healed in the holy instant heaven gave you. So, I think it's easy to think, asking for help isn't real significant. But literally, asking for help is being in the holy instant where you're out of time and space, and you're actually exponentially collapsing time. Very important. It doesn't seem important. It seems like I said, oh yeah, that's nice, I want some help here. But it doesn't appear that something different has shifted, but something different has shifted because before you made that step, you insisted your brother was wrong and you were right. If you're really doing a holy instant with empty hands, you're dropping the story to find out another story.
You've changed your mind. You're allowed to change your mind when it comes to error, but not sin.
Right.
Sin is something we hold on to for dear life, as if that's what
Absolutely.
will answer when we die and go to heaven or hell or whatever.
And I think it's also really important to recognize I don't fix the problem that I think I have. On
just
top
change-
of it,
change
that
your
you
mind
change
about
your
it.
mind about the
Change your
problem.
mind
Yes.
that it's not up to you to fix and you ask for help.
The barriers to heaven, and be aware this course talks about the idea this is a course in removing the blocks to love. This is not a course about love, it's a course about removing the blocks to love. So the barriers to heaven will disappear before your holy sight, for you who were sightless have been given vision and you can see. I cannot see, we could take these sunglasses and make them, so I couldn't see through them. So literally, when I put them on, I wouldn't be able to see anything versus taking them off and being able to see. That's what the block, removing the block or asking for healing will do. It will help you see clearly through his point of view. Look not for what has been removed, but for the glory that has been restored for you to see. And, I'm sure I'm guilty of this as much as anybody else. Normally, when we ask for help, we want this to get fixed. That's pretty much a no-brainer. We like push button, TV turns on and the microwave or whatever it is. But this is really about relinquishing something that's not real and choosing for what is real. And the more you do that, the more you're in reality, and who cares what happens over there? But we do. So you honor that I still care. Yeah.
So we have a holy instant, we forgive our brother and ourselves, but it's not just that, because it's not about the form.
Right, no.
So we don't know where in the world this forgiveness
Absolutely not.
is going to show up next
And-
step. But
right.
it's like we've released something.
We've released the belief that we have control over anything,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And the investment in the story that I hold. And
Like
his
a bird.
story and my story aren't the same. And we read a couple months ago a line that I just love, with the idea of when you ask, the holy instant, not only is that in relationship to the specific thing you think is being worked on, that people or things will be healed that you've never even met before. That's pretty far reaching.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's very cool. And all I care about was, why didn't they say nice things to me instead of mean things, or whatever it may be.
So, and my brother might be blades of grass. I
And my
have no
brother
way
may
of
be
even
blades
knowing,
of grass.
you know.
Yes. Or the grape on the floor, whatever. Yeah. All right, so look not for what has been removed, but for the glory that has been restored for you to see. Because you could say, can't see, can see. Can't see, can see. As long as I'm looking through this lens, and you notice the little X here, which is not the way we really want to go. If I'm looking at this, I'm not looking at this. And, I bring this one out while we're at it. This is the center. We're either walking towards the darkness or we're walking towards the light. And we think if I'm walking towards the darkness to fix the darkness, that I'm walking towards the light. But we're not. We're like the tar baby getting one more, arm or leg stuck. This is, let me read that last line. Look not at what has been removed, but for the glory of what has been restored to you. When you're only looking in this direction, then this is what's going to be restored to you. If you're over here thinking, you're God's helper and you're going to tell all the sinners, about the Course of Miracles or anything else for that matter, you're in control and God's not. And this is literally, he's in control or I'm in control, period. And, we sometimes jokingly say, when I'm in control, we push God under the bus. If you look at it from that visual, it kind of adds to the picture a little bit. All right, paragraph 11. Look upon your Redeemer and behold what he would show you in your brother, and let not sin arise again to blind your eyes. For sin would keep you separate from him, but your Redeemer would have you look upon your brother as yourself. Your relationship is now a temple of healing, a place where all the weary ones can come and rest. Here is the rest that waits for all after the journey and is brought nearer to all by your relationship. All right, I'm going to point out something in this paragraph. So look upon the Redeemer and behold what he would show you. And again, that's the holy instant where you're literally saying, oops, that's not the holy instant. When you're asking for the holy instant, you're literally saying, I don't know. I can't stay on tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock and rise above the battleground and not know. I have to relinquish linear time, linear experiences to be able to literally come to this place. So look upon your Redeemer and behold what he would show you in your brother, and let not sin arise again to blind your eyes. Well, from where we are, we'll have a holy instant and we'll come slipping right back down the slide. But each time we do that, it's almost like we're not going to fall quite so far each time we do that, which will be an accumulation for a long time before we absolutely are living here and not being called back into this. Fear would keep you separate from him, but your Redeemer would have to look upon your brother as yourself. Well, that's a tricky one, you see, because if I'm looking at myself like this, I do see my brother as myself and draw self to me. Okay, so this means I have to really be willing to drop all the stories about myself as well. So then I could see clearly my brother, because when I've got those glasses on, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to see my brother through those sin. And the sin is what I've accepted about myself, which isn't true. And even if it's not true, if I believe it, I will live as though it were true until I take my glasses off. So when he says Redeemer would have you look upon your brother as yourself, again, unfortunately, when I'm looking at myself through the lens of guilt, sin, and fear, I do see my brother that way. And when I automatically shift to the other side, I automatically see my brother from a different point. And that doesn't mean in 2 minutes that's your relationship with your brother. It could get uglier and uglier before you are 100% on the side of the Holy Spirit. Your relationship is now a temple of healing, a place where all the weary ones can come and rest. And see, one of the challenges, we didn't realize we were holding the temple of non-healing. We were holding the temple of, separation, me against you, guilt, sin, and fear, I'm right, you're wrong. And we didn't even realize that that was what we were holding. And yet that's been running our life since that choice was made. All right, so here is the rest that waits for all after the journey. And even that word of, here is the rest, because our lives are so chaotic 24 hours a day, even our dreams a lot of times are chaotic. And that is all a result of choosing for the ego. So the turnaround, and the beauty of that is there's so many times and moments and places where we can take the results of that choice and begin to shift those around and keep questioning, you show me what truth is, because I guess I don't have a clue.
And journey in that case means the practice?
Well, basically, yes, it would be practice. And in other words, once we finally give up the journey and we will just rest in what is true, I'm not going to be going back and forth all the time. And I will see my brother unequivocally through the lens of love, not through the lens of judgment or attack. And once again, with Jesus in the Course, when he was having all those things done to him, he did not see any of his brothers through the lens of attack or judgment. He saw through the lens of they were calling for love. And if you are really aligned with love, the only thing you could do is love. And, you know, I love one of my favorite stories. If you're a lemon and you squeeze you, what comes out? Lemon. If you're love and you squeeze you, what comes out? Love. If you squeeze me and love doesn't come out, I got more work to do. And again, it's not personal. Don't attack yourself. Don't judge yourself. Just realize if something other than love continues to flow from me when I'm challenged, I just have to keep working on this, because that's the bottom line. And it's initially quite challenging, I think, to acknowledge and embrace that. But I think as you move along in the journey, you start to go, oh, thank you for letting me know, instead of, oh my gosh, because I think for myself, it was like I wanted to think I was there, and you just showed me I wasn't, and I wasn't too happy with you. But if you look at it from the perspective of, oh, okay, back to the drawing board, what needs to be healed in me that still can be triggered? Because there's no triggers here. Triggers are all
It's
gone.
like we're the sculptor and the statue both. And what we're
Absolutely.
doing is like chipping away
Yeah.
at
Oh.
wasn't
Right.
what
wasn't? Yeah. What
the
isn't?
real
Yeah.
me.
And we also have to very much respect what I think is the me that's real. Because right now,
I'm sorry.
we need to respect that I still believe this, even though it isn't real. I still believe this is very valuable. I can't just, throw that away and pretend that doesn't bother me. Start with exactly where you are, which is I still hold dearly to my attachment to myself. Thousands of people could say, that's not who you are. Doesn't do any good as long as my investment lies over here. But each time we ask for help, literally, part of you is dissipating and more of you is lining up with this.
There's a lot of good singers in the book too, in case you read more things in the book that'll help to really
Sure.
get you on the right page.
Yep.
There was this one thing in the book that hit me like a ton of bricks a few weeks ago, talking about your brother and you. It was in littleness versus magnitude section. Call forth in everyone only the remembrance of God and of the heaven that is in him. For where you would have your brother be, there will you think you are.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of like people say, you're this and that, and you go, I know I am, but I know you are, but what am I? It's like some of these things are from about I'm bubblegum, I'm whatever, I'm glue.
Right.
What bounces off me sticks to you, things like that. But this one just hit me like a ton of bricks. It just, so where I think my brother is, that's where I think I am, because then we're both in the same place, because I'm only thinking about that. I'm not thinking
Exactly.
about God.
Yeah. Well, and I like my little mirror, and if the little kid and you go, Mommy, the person in the mirror's got their tongue sticking out at me, and the mother would say, put your tongue back in your mouth. Well, this is saying if you can be affected by something out there, there's something in you that's still got a trigger point, and it's not good or bad, it's just the facts. And if you don't like those results, here's the plan to undo that. All right, let me just reread that last line. And then the final one, here is the rest that waits for all after the journey, and it is brought near to all by your relationship. So as you invite this, it will be brought near to you as well as to your brother. All right, let's close our eyes and take a nice big deep breath. Forgive us our illusions, Father, and help us to accept our true relationship with you, in which there are no illusions and where none can ever enter. Our holiness in you be in us that needs forgiveness, when yours is love. But forgetfulness is only the unwillingness to remember your forgiveness and your love. Let us not wander into temptation, for the temptation of the Son of God is not your will. And let us receive only what you have given, and accept but this into the minds that you've created and which you love.